everyone. Please bear with us for just a moment while I start the live stream audience for our LinkedIn viewers. Take me just a moment. And there we go. So welcome to everyone on our LinkedIn live stream and our YouTube live stream, and of course everyone watching here on the WebEx application. And I'm here with Matt Bailey. Hi, Matt. And here is our topic today: digital marketing trends impacting your career in 2023. For those of you on WebEx, please put your questions for Matt into the Q&A panel, and you can also send messages through the all panelists chat, but we'll take questions out of the Q&A mainly. And then you are watching on the live stream, put your questions into your streaming application's chat or comment box to be able to get those passed on to us. And we'll also be doing a couple of polls during this process, find out more about you in the audience. So I'm going to ask a first poll question before we get into the presentation. And this one, two parts. First, how much experience do you have? We like to get that kind of feeling of who's in the audience. This is not necessarily experience in digital marketing, but just general experience in the workforce. And then we also have a check-in question to see how you're doing. We've been asking this throughout the pandemic as surges come and go, lockdowns open and shut, and people work from home and go back to the office, all the different stresses. So here we go. And this is an interesting result because it's the flattest distribution I think I've seen of people of experience level. So we have just a spectrum, and good to see that most people are doing pretty well or okay. And we hope that what Matt has to share with you.
A third are from college and university, that's probably, I think, one of the largest representations of college university students I think we've had, Stuart.
Yeah. Oh,
that is great.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, we have other types of webinars that have more heavy representation of students and freshers, but in your webinars, we've generally seen people who are into their careers and
yeah,
that type of thing. But this, because it's a career webinar today, we're talking to people who are interested in getting started in the field or maybe pivoting into the field, as well as those who are already digital marketers who want to see what's ahead for the year. So I'll let you talk a little bit about yourself, and then I'll stop sharing this screen and let you go ahead and share yours.
All right.
First, go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right. Well, thank you, Stuart. My name's Matt Bailey. I've been in digital marketing now for going on 25 years. Started building websites in the mid to late 90s and taught myself how to do analytics because I needed to know, is this worth doing and how much money am I making from it? So from there, learned search engine optimization, paid search, of course, social media as it was still in its infancy in the 90s, believe it or not. Social media did not start with Facebook in 2012. It actually was around before the modern internet. So we've seen all these changes. And so, yeah, I do a lot of training and teaching in the industry. I've worked both brand side and agency side, but now focus on training, which takes me all over the world. Just last week, I did webinars for people in Romania, but then also I just got back home from Dubai. So it's been an exciting past few months in the training world.
That's pretty exciting. Did you get a chance to hop over to Qatar for the World Cup?
No, I watched it at some of the viewing places there, but they were running 60 flights a day from Dubai to Qatar to see the World Cup. So it was absolutely amazing.
That's pretty amazing. Okay. Well, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you have the screen sharing control. So
All right.
over to you.
I will bring that up. Thank you, Stuart. And thank you again, Simplilearn, for allowing me to come in and present to you. Really looking forward to it. And this is going to be a little different of a presentation because we're going to talk about your career. We're going to talk about digital marketing trends and your career. So it's going to be a little bit different because as you have questions, put them in the Q&A, all right? I can see some of the Q&A popping up here. I try to keep an eye on it while I'm talking. But if Stuart, if any good questions come up, feel free to jump in and let me know what they are, especially if they are focused on the content that is on the screen at that time.
I will.
Because, all right, great. Here's what I'm doing. I am going to approach this as if I were going to invest in the stock market, or if I were going to invest my career into anything right now, where would I invest? And so I'm going to have a little bit of an investment banking or stock market theme here because there is so much happening in the digital marketing or the digital career area that really we've got to look at it as if we were investing money, or ultimately we're investing time and we're investing our careers. So I'm going to go at it from that aspect. And the first thing, and this might not be a surprise to anybody, if it comes to my career, and let's say I have stock to sell, I am selling everything I've got in Twitter and I'm selling what I have in Facebook. Now, a couple of reasons for this. And you know what's going on with Twitter. And you may be on the side that said Elon's going to solve it. He's going to turn it around. You may be on the side that Elon's destroying it. He doesn't know what he's doing. Either way, advertisers are leaving, people are leaving. Elon might be able to send a rocket into space. He might be able to create a electric car. But when it comes to Twitter, he has to make millions of people happy in order to use his product. It's not like solving a technical problem. This is marketing. This is creating a service that people want to use. And the moves that he's made, some of the things that are happening, if I have Twitter stock, I'm selling it. Now, on the other side of the world, Facebook. Who would have thought 2 years ago that Facebook would have lost more than half of its value in the stock market? Who would have thought that this would have been possible? Facebook was on top of the world in terms of how many users, in terms of gaining users around the world. And it's interesting because in the US, Facebook's been flat, but around the world, it's still gaining. But yet, when Mark Zuckerberg makes the decision to spend billions of dollars in the metaverse with very little to show, investors, people looking at Facebook are pulling out. And they don't have the patience to see what's happening. And when Facebook had to eliminate jobs, when they had to draw down because they're putting so much money into metaverse, and really what Zuckerberg is presenting really isn't that impressive. And so no one is sold on what's happening in these two platforms. They are really, it's like I said, it's amazing what a year can do, because these two platforms a year, 2 years ago were on top, and now people are really eyeing them very suspiciously. All right. I'm also going to sell programmatic advertising, because programmatic advertising it's always had a problem with fraud. It's always had a problem with bot traffic. And by bot traffic, I mean bot traffic. Oh, where's my pen? It's disappearing here. There we go. Bot traffic, robots, okay? More bots are seeing programmatic ads than humans. And we're seeing more and more headlines come up that are showing the problems with programmatic, because advertisers are spending a lot of money, and right now they can't track where almost a third of the money goes. Everyone takes a piece of it, and publishers ultimately get less than 50 cents on the dollar for every programmatic dollar spent. But even then, advertisers, if you buy cheap traffic, chances are it's not human. Look at this report here of programmatic campaigns where you can see we have impressions, for one day here running in the around 40,000 impressions for each of these campaigns. However, less than 200 actual humans out of those thousands, tens of thousands of impressions. But yet, advertisers that are going direct to publishers, that are creating a one-on-one and avoiding the programmatic market, the programmatic auction and marketplace, they are the ones that are reaching the humans. They're not reaching bots. And so if I'm looking at my career, I'm also looking at where I'm going in my marketing and what I'm going to do to be more effective. I am pulling everything out of programmatic advertising, especially if I have agencies that say they have fraud detection. It's not in the agency's best interest to do fraud detection. Their job is to deliver you views, regardless of whether, and the best way to see if it's bots or humans is analytics. It's not fraud detection software. So that's one area I'm starting to sell, and I'm going to look at other places to put my money. Now, where I'm going to hold. Right now, I'm holding on the metaverse. All right. As I said, Facebook is putting billions of dollars into it. There have been concerts in the metaverse. There have been product announcements. There have been all kinds of things happening in the metaverse. But the problem is, with all these billions of dollars being spent on the metaverse, the amount of people in the metaverse attending these events is actually very small. It's tiny compared to what's happening on the other platforms. You wouldn't think by the amount of news coverage that the metaverse only has maybe less than 1 million people in it at a time. And that's not a large number compared to the millions, the billions of people that are on other platforms. It's actually very, very small. And also, what does it take to get into the metaverse? Well, it takes a high-speed connection. It takes a very powerful computer. It takes goggles. It takes a headset, which costs quite a bit of money. And so the barrier to entry of the metaverse is very high when you compare it to simply the ability to download an app on my phone and have immediate access. So the metaverse, with that barrier, it's an economic barrier. It is, a barrier to so many people. And also, there's a level of trust that goes on there. Because if you're completely connected, that means all your data is being collected. And if Facebook's involved, you know your data is being collected. So I'm holding on the metaverse. I'm watching to see what's being done. Now, I see that there are great applications being designed specifically in the B2B, the medical world, but they're typically more in a walled garden. They're typically in their own area. It's not for public. It's for private. It's for businesses to develop something that they can share and work with their specialists from all over the world. But what's building the metaverse is brands, and brands rarely build anything first. It's people that build something, and then the brands come along when they see the people are there. Right now, your primary builders are brands. TikTok. Now, TikTok is still growing. TikTok is still building relationships, building coverage. However, I'm holding on it because more and more countries around the world are evaluating TikTok. I mean, India already blocked it. It's not available there. They've got their own products. In the US, they're reviewing it, and government employees are not allowed to have TikTok on their government phones. And so we're starting to see around the world a lot of questions being asked about who owns the data, how much access is the data have in China, and what's going on. So not just the US, but the EU and many other countries are reevaluating how to deal with TikTok and how much it is it's beneficial, and should it be regulated or limited? So there's a lot going on with TikTok. If you saw some of the information that came out recently, that China has its own version of TikTok. And then they have the version that they unleashed on the world. You see, the Chinese version of TikTok, if you're under 15 years old, you are limited to 30 minutes. That's it. China limits. And it not only does that, it curates the content that minors will see on the app. You see, if you're under 15 in China and you go to TikTok, you see science experiments that you can do at home. You get educational content. You get content about nationalism. And so you get curated content, and then after 30 minutes, you're done. What they call the opium version, the addictive version of TikTok, that's what China sent to the rest of the world. And that's why so many countries, so many governments are reevaluating where they're going with TikTok. So I'm going to watch it. I may use it for advertising, but it's one of those areas where I'm going to just be very wary of where things go there. Now, where am I going to buy? I'm going to buy on YouTube. I'm buying in on LinkedIn, and I am buying in on Instagram. Instagram has one of the fastest. Now, again, in the US, Instagram has gone flat. Around the world, Instagram is growing. More and more people using Instagram. Yes, I know it's tied to Facebook. That's what makes things very difficult. How are you going to use your areas? So it's just really interesting, because even among different countries, as I had mentioned, I spent some time in the Middle East, and in Egypt, Snapchat is number one. In Saudi Arabia, I think, I'm trying to think what it is. I think TikTok or one of them. In the UAE, Instagram is one of the most used. It's just really interesting how even in different countries, you see this change and shift. But in every country, Middle East, Asia, Africa, US, the number one social media is always YouTube. And it's interesting because people don't always think of it as social media. YouTube, by far, is viewed more than almost any other website. In fact, if you look at the top search engines, all right, number one search engine around the world, except in different regions, China, Russia, and some other countries have their own, but Google. Google is, and not surprise to anyone, it's the number one search engine. The number two search engine, and actually 2 and 3 kind of flip-flop. The number 2 search engine is Google Images. That's the number 2 search engine in the world. The number 3 search engine is YouTube. Google owns the top 3 search engines being used around the world. LinkedIn, from a B2B standpoint, LinkedIn has always been at the top, and LinkedIn is continually adding more versatility, more methods of building audiences, of engaging with people. LinkedIn is really in a high growth trajectory, and it's very unique among the B2B world. It's where you go if you have an audience for that. So those 3 social networks I am buying, because they are growing and they're constantly attracting new users. Now, also, as a strategy, I'm buying content marketing. It's going to increase. Just this recent survey just a few months ago, companies are going to increase their budgets in content marketing, because content marketing, what I love about it is that it utilizes so many other disciplines. If you're doing content marketing, you are naturally doing SEO with your content. You're also naturally doing social in order to get more distribution on there. You're also using paid. You're either using paid search or paid social to extend what you're doing. You're building landing pages, you're developing all that, and you're also doing a heavy dose of analytics to figure out what's working, why it's working, and how I can get more out of this. So content marketing as a strategy naturally involves all these digital disciplines. And of course, when you're doing everything, you're going to see great results. And so we could see here at least half of companies are going to be increasing their budgets between 1 and 9% in the next year. So this is a growth opportunity. By the way, digital marketing is estimated to be at a $320 billion industry. All right. 320 billion. All right. That is the digital marketing industry. It is estimated to double in the next 5 years to over 640 billion. That is crazy. Do you realize how crazy that is? That digital marketing is poised to double over the next 5 years. That means if you have your digital marketing credentials and experience now, within the next year, in 5 years, look at how many managers will be needed. If the industry doubles, that means you could be managing in 5 years. That means you could be considered senior in 5 years. That is what's happening in the industry right now. So getting a hold on these skills and developing them and growing and building your experience is going to pay off as this industry grows. All right.
I have one question
Yes,
relating
Stuart,
to
yes.
content marketing that
Yeah.
came in from Dinesh, and he asks, do you think that Chat GPT and other AI tools are going to replace content writers and website developers?
I am so happy you asked that question, Janesh. Great question. All right, I'm going to go back a slide in here. ChatGPT, thank you for bringing that up. Here, so I've used it. I have talked to other people that's used it, and yesterday I interviewed an AI specialist about this. ChatGPT, from a content standpoint, I did some work in it to see what it would do and what it created. All right. What it gave back to me was probably, I would describe, at the level of an intern. I asked it to look at certain content in a certain area. I read through it, and it was if I asked a very inexperienced person who had a basic knowledge of the industry put it together. Now, the AI specialist I talked to, he had it look at 4 articles and to create a summary. And his assessment was the same. It was basically intern level work. And that's where we're at right now. It's from a content production standpoint, you're not going to get advanced content. Also, the problem with Chat GPT is it is creating citations that don't exist. It very easily will state things as fact that aren't. So we've got a lot of gaps. It's got a long way to go. Here's the thing. Now, where I found it valuable is it helped me look at a subject from the outside. See, sometimes we can be so close to something that we forget. And so, as far as coming up, I think ChatGPT could be good for keyword research. I think it could be good for coming up with topics. I think it could be good for helping you see areas of the industry that you might miss. But as far as writing something that I would immediately press post on, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We've got a long way to go from there. As it was explained to me, what ChatGPT is doing is it's word prediction. All it's doing is taking a keyword or a concept and predicting what the next word would be. That's all it's doing. So there's no thought, there's no soul, there's no experience behind it. And I hope that answers your question, Dinesh. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up. All right. I'm going to move on here to, and this is it. So the reason why I was in Dubai is I went to the 1 billion follower summit. 2 days, over 100 speakers, and those 100 speakers added up together had over 1 billion followers. All right. And so it was fantastic. This event had over 16,000 applications from people to attend. They limited it to 3,500 attendees from over 100 countries. It was incredible. It was amazing. And so here's a few things that I saw what was going on. Number one, no one called themselves an influencer. All right. And that's because the industry perception, no one wants to work with an influencer. People want to work with a content creator. All right. So we're shifting some labels here. We're shifting some of these things because I mean, when you hear the word influencer, what's the first thing that comes in your mind? You're thinking of typically it's that fake lifestyle content where it's not a lot of authenticity, and they're always looking for the big brand deals. There is a negative perception about influencers in and out of the industry. But where the growth is, where people are seeing results is as a content creator. Even brands are realizing this is it's better to focus on micro influencers, the content creators that have a relationship with their audience, that are creating community, that have personal connections, a good influence on their audience, meaning a strong tie and connection. And they're creating education and entertainment. So there's a big difference right now between an influencer and a content creator. The label is changing, and people are defining who I am and why I'm here and creating more authentic relationships with their audiences. So that's one of the things that it came out of that, but I've been seeing it more and more in the industry. Now, here's also what I'm buying. I am buying the EU. All right. If you've been watching the news over the past few weeks, the EU is taking these large tech companies to task. They are they are determining how Google, Facebook will grow in the EU and how they will do business. The EU, over the past few weeks, has dropped decisions on Google and Facebook that they must change if they are going to operate in the EU. They need to change their data privacy, how they collect data, how they process data, and how they target people. The EU has gone after them for antitrust, monopolistic practices, and limited some of the things that they can do. They need more user protection in terms of advertising as well as illegal content. The EU is leading the way among the rest of the world on fighting these large tech companies like Google and Facebook or Meta. All right, those two in particular, Google and Meta, EU is dictating how they will do business. And it's interesting because these are a lot of things that, especially in the US government, they haven't done. Main reason is because the big tech companies, they lobby the US government for favorable laws and regulations. They don't do it in the EU. And the EU actually is more concerned about privacy. They're more concerned about antitrust and monopolistic practices. And so we're seeing a major shift when the world is telling Google and Facebook, you can come here, but here's how you're going to do business. So I'm watching the EU and how they handle the tech companies because this is going to determine how things evolve over the next few years. Also, I'm buying anything that has to do with privacy. Anything with privacy. When the president and this is the thing, Google has been handed down a lot of decisions about privacy. And still, when Google talks about privacy, I do laugh. And it was interesting that Google did a survey of Europeans, 7,000 Europeans, and they said that when brands respect privacy, the ads perform better. Go figure. And also, if you have a bad privacy experience with a brand, 43% of Europeans said they will switch to another brand. That includes a search engine. So when Google realizes that they need to change practices, that they need to refocus and develop more privacy controls and allow people to manage their own privacy and data, people respond to that. People like that. We'll see what Google does about that. I am also buying economies. When you look around the world and see where things are growing, where what's happening, U.S. News and World Report just issued a report about the fastest growing economies in the world. Right now, the fastest growing economies are in the UAE, Egypt, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. Those are the world's fastest growing economies, and they are making waves. As Stuart and I talked a little bit about the World Cup in Qatar, they have gotten worldwide attention for this, and they are making moves to be world players along with the other countries. However, other countries in recession, what's going on in Russia right now with the war in Ukraine, the Russian economy is taking massive hits, as well as digital talent is leaving. Most of the digital talent in Russia has all, if they haven't left already, they're leaving because the lack of freedom, the fear of what's happening. And so many tech companies have moved out of Russia into other countries, and Russia has lost its future in terms of knowledge capital. And their economy is going to be taking a major hit over the next, could be the next decade or two. But also in Europe, we're seeing some other economies in recession. Germany, Italy, I've got Germany down there twice. Germany and Italy, they are seeing some recessions as well. And so watching the world economies, where is innovation taking place? Where are new, and this is where it was measured, startups. Where are the startups happening? What countries are growing in terms of population? What countries are growing in terms of the ease of creating a business? That's what they're watching when they're looking at economies in growth.
Matt,
Yes.
Vivek was asking if you had an insight into where India fits into this spectrum.
India, India is a growing economy. They are a growing economy, but like I said, there was about 10 to 15 factors of the ability to build a business, to attract talent from outside, to taxes. There was a lot of factors in there. I think India was probably in the top 20, but it was not in the top five. I'd have to go back and see, but there was a U.S. News and World Report that handled that there.
Okay. And Dinesh had a related question that we might want to cover in the Q&A, but he was pointing out that growing economies tend not in this chart here are not English speaking economies. So would digital marketers be best advised to focus on local languages?
Great question. I'll tell you what. I went to the UAE and English. Everyone speaks English. There are over 160 nationalities represented in the UAE, and if you want to do business, you do it in English. It was a surprise to me, but I do a lot of work with the government there. Now, most of them they speak Arabic. Primarily, but they do know a bit of English, and some are very well versed in English. So that was a really kind of a surprise to me. And so I think you're seeing that a lot of these growing countries, learn if you know the local language, that's great. But what I've seen is there is more and more English being spoken. I can't say, because I speak English, I think that's amazing. But I also know that English is one of the most weird languages in the world. So best of luck to you if you.
And we had a few audience members who are asking about Nigeria. And so in general, for the other countries in the world, where can people Google the results of the U.S. News and World
That is a
Report?
great question. I will have to. I'm trying to look. I left my phone somewhere and it had the link.
Oh, okay. Well, we can share
Yeah,
that in the post webinar email.
yeah. I'll get that to
Afterward.
you. I think if you want to Google U.S. News and World Report fastest growing economies, that should get you there.
Thank you.
Should get you there. Yeah. All right. All right. Okay. Here's what I'm buying. Creator owned platforms, and this is going to shift the industry in the next 5 years. Here's why. Why am I selling Instagram, or not Instagram? Why am I selling Twitter? Why am I selling Facebook? Because 5 years ago, if you wanted to grow your business, everyone told you to be on Facebook. Everyone told you to be on Twitter. And so if you put all your organic social marketing into Facebook and onto Twitter, where are you today? All that content, time, money, effort, creative development, editing, it's all gone. You put it out there, and they change their algorithm, so you only get 2% coverage. If you post something on organic social media, only 2% of your followers will see your content. 2%. And so technically, you may have 100,000 followers, but only 2% are going to see your updates. Those aren't your followers. Those followers belong to Facebook. They belong to Instagram. They belong to Twitter. And so what we're seeing more and more, if I'm a creator and I want to reach people and I don't want to be dependent upon some billionaire coming in and buying a social platform and half the people leaving, or some billionaire decides to take his social media company in a different direction, causing people to leave the platform. You see, here's the thing. All these social platforms are owned by billionaires, and they can change their mind, do what they want, and what happens to you and the content that you gave them. See, and here right now is where we're at with the creator economy. The creator economy is, I'm creating content and I'm giving it to a platform. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, any of them. I'm uploading it and I'm giving it to them. And then they give me a little bit of money if I reach a certain amount of people and show ads. That's it. These platforms don't create anything. They rely on creators to create the content, which brings the people so they can show the ads so they can make money. And some of that money trickles down to creators. What's happening right now is creators are realizing that if that social platform changes, moves, this year, Instagram went from an image-based platform to a video-based platform. And everyone that built their presence on Instagram on images was completely lost because now it favored video. And everyone over the past few years who invested all of this effort into Instagram was now lost in now with video. So a platform can change at any time, and what's going to happen to all that you did? So we're seeing more and more creators moving to platforms where they are directly supported by their audiences, where they are able to create without limit. Great example of this is Nebula. Nebula, and if you follow any YouTube creators, I've seen a lot more YouTube creators at the end of their videos pitching Nebula, which is a membership. If I want to watch videos there, I have to pay. But what's happening is they can create videos there and they won't get hit by copyright strikes. They have direct support from their audiences. They don't have to abide by these platform rules and almost arbitrary decisions. And copyright strikes on YouTube are huge. They can kill a creator. But on Nebula, they can do what they want. On Patreon, I can create content and people can pay what they think it's worth, or I can have different tiers. And so we're going to see more and more a rise in these creator-owned platforms where it's either directly supported by audiences who love the content. And as you can see, there's so many different aspects, so many different platforms that you can work on. And people are finding that they can make just as much, if not more money there than by doing ads or something else on YouTube or some of the other platforms. So watch what's happening in this area. Because the creator economy, it's growing. And here's the thing, this is where Bitcoin, possibly NFTs, are going to find their way in, because now a great example of this was the Plotiverse, which is like for photographers, and they can upload all of their work. They can create their own channel, really, on Plotiverse. But if I want to buy an image to use as in my marketing, if I want to use it as stock photography, I can buy it through Bitcoin. Because if I buy it through the app any other way, Apple Store gets 30%. So isn't this amazing? So now it's allowing creators to get all of their money because they're bringing in digital money in order to bypass the Apple Store, the Google Play Store, which takes a cut of everything. And so now we're seeing more community-based tokens, finance, things like that. And so also what's happening is we're seeing what we call the direct monetization. And that's where your fans, followers, your community, and also brands can go direct to a creator. And indirect monetization is where you're doing it through ads. But the direct monetization is growing as probably one of the most significant changes in the industry. Now, I'm going to, very quickly here, I'm going to give you a little bit of an ad when it comes to careers. I'm going to put this in the chat here. I think I've got the, yes. I just completed a podcast series called 7 Digital Marketing Skills That'll Never Go Out of Style. I just completed it. All 7 are up there. It's actually 8 because I did an intro, but I put the link in the chat window. So if you want to hear that, now that'll take you to my site, but you can also, please subscribe to the Endless Coffee Cup if you listen to podcasts. And that you'll get this. Also very soon, my chat with an AI expert. We talk a lot about ChatGPT. That will be published in the next few weeks here. But if you subscribe, you'll get it all. But that'll take you right to the show page where you can start listening and get a handle on these. But I'm going to tell you what they are. So if you look at 7 skills that are never go out of style, here's what I'm buying. All right. Number 1, I'm buying digital and media literacy. All right. And by that, I mean, this comes down to understanding how the media works, how the digital ecosystem works, and also digital security. All right. Media and digital literacy, knowing how these tools work. What drives things, not just not just riding the wave of digital, but understanding what goes on behind the scenes to make it work. So, like I said, if you're following the EU and what the EU is doing, you're getting into how the tool works. Don't just use the tools. Don't just use the social media platform. Get deep and find out why it works, what's happening, what drives, get into the psychology of it, and build your literacy in these areas. Number 2, writing. Writing skills, this goes back, content marketing. It's growing, it will continue to grow, it will continue to dominate as a digital strategy. What does content marketing need? It needs good writers, copywriters, who are skilled at implementing storytelling around brands, around products, and that can write compelling content that will draw and attract users. Number 3, analytics. Analytics is probably the top skill in demand around the world when it comes to anything digital. And it doesn't have to be advanced analytics. It can simply be understanding how to take basic data and make a decision from it. Website analytics, and building from there, that will never go out of style at all. User experience, understanding how to build interfaces that can increase the effectiveness of what you're doing. I've worked with so many companies where they're frustrated because they're not making enough sales, they're not getting enough leads, and all we did was fix the interface. We made a better user experience, and immediately sales doubled, leads doubled, profitability increased. Had nothing to do with the marketing, it had everything to do with the experience. And not even the beginning. This goes into customer experience. This goes into building loyalty. This goes into building long-term audiences. It all comes down to what was the user experience, both through the interface and the relationship. That is huge. Business acumen. You may understand SEO, you may know paid search, you may know social media marketing, but do you know how they understand, how they impact the organization? Do you understand the difference between revenue and profit? Do you know how what you're doing in digital marketing impacts the company's bottom line, and can you prove it? That's business acumen, understanding what the organizational goals are and how they connect to what you're doing tactically. That's critical, and that requires analytics. 6 is asking questions, the ability to ask good questions. And 7 is presentation skills. This is key. Presentation skills. The OMCP, all right, the Online Marketing Certified Professional. If you are going to get certified, I would look heavily at the OMCP as the primary certification organization. And right now, I know we've got a third of people are university and college students right now. Many recruiters value digital marketing certification more than they value a degree. I know that is so hard to hear. And that's because a lot of universities are not teaching the correct best practices. They're not up to date. In fact, in most of my training, the one thing I hear from college and university students is, why didn't they tell us this? Why didn't they show us this? Unfortunately, undergraduate training is lacking right now. And this is why recruiters are looking at certification as a replacement for a degree when it comes to candidates. Why? Because certification shows that you are competent. You have demonstrated experience in these areas. That's why they're looking for it. Now, in this role delineation study, they found digital marketing as a career, 25% of a digital marketer's time is spent presenting, communicating, strategy, practice, and results. 1/4 of your time in digital marketing is presenting. And so if you have presentation skills, guess what? You're going to get noticed. And by the way, presentation of anything that you do, any skill that you have, you are judged on presentation skills, because perhaps no other skill reflects your competence. It is on display when you present. And so that is a huge part of what you are able to do. And so this part, 20% of your time is typically traditional marketing activities. This is all the strategic, the tactical of audience targeting, persona development, market research. 15% on content development and copywriting. Look at, I love this because it backs up everything that I've seen and experienced. By the way, 10% or less on tactics. That means 10% or less of a digital marketer's time is spent on the SEO, the paid search. 10% or less. Most of it is communicating to others and working within a team and doing the work around that. That's incredible. So those of you looking at this as a career, this is something you really need to be aware of, and how you will develop and where you will focus your attention. All right.
Matt,
Yes.
just before we move on,
Yes.
Afan asks a related question. Afan's question is, what if you only have practical experience in digital marketing? What should you do with relation to certifications?
I would look at certifications that may have a practice exam, and see where you stand on the practice exam. You may even, if you've got practical experience, some of them you can take the certification test. If you've got I know the OMCP. If you show how much experience you have, then you're able to sit for an exam. I believe for the associate level, I think if you have 3 years of experience, then you can sit for the exam. So look at the different certifications and see what they require. If you have practical experience, that's fantastic. You may want to do a little bit of brushing up to see what kind of skills and competencies they may have, especially in terms of industry accepted practices. That's what they're going to be focused on. So you want to make sure your experience lines up with what they will teach and determine to be industry standard. Does that help?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Okay. Now I'm going to give you the old man guru talk. All right. I've been in this business now, and I guess it's like 25 years I've been doing this. I have watched trends come and go. I've seen things, I've seen, the rise of different media, different platforms. Here's looking back and then looking forward to my next 25 years in this industry. Okay. Here's my guru talk to all of you. And I'm excited that so many of you are in college and university, because here's my career advice to you. Number one, don't buy hype. All right. Every year there's going to be hype. We've seen the hype around Chat GPT. Guess what? This is on a cycle, because a couple months from now, something else will hit the hype meter. It was metaverse. It was, I'm trying to think what else. It's Chat GPT. There is a media cycle of hype, because whatever's new, whatever's exciting, the media is going to talk about it. Why? Because the more they talk about it, the more people click the articles, the more money they make. The hype cycle is a money-making cycle for media. That's what it is. And so if you want to learn something, go read the article. Don't read headlines. Headlines are the most distracting, untrue things that you could read. Read the article. And when you're reading the article, and this is part of digital literacy, for example, I saw a statistic the other day. I had to laugh, because I think it was like 80% of social media users have bought something from social media. What? And here's how I could spot that. Because I read data, I read studies, I look at what's going on. But here was the problem. Number one, it was a crazy clickbait headline. Number two, when I went and checked, and number two, it was a ridiculous statistic. How did I know it was a ridiculous statistic? Because I've watched the industry. I know it. And when I went and double checked the sources, guess what? It was a company that specialized in social commerce that did the study that created the ridiculous statistic that was quoted by somebody else. Don't buy hype. Dig in, educate yourself about how to filter out clickbait, how to filter out anything that is self-serving, because what's happening is companies that are self-interested are producing studies with crazy statistics, and they're getting picked up by media, they're getting picked up by articles, they're getting picked up by blogs. So don't buy hype. All right, number two, invest in yourself. You'll never go wrong. By that, I mean certification. It's always a great option. I saw one on here. What organization provides the most valuable digital marketing certificate? I will say there are a couple out there that I think are better than others. I typically default to the OMCP. You can find it at omcp.org. You can get more information about that. They're probably one of the best when it comes to an industry board that sets the competencies. They're the ones that I align with and have worked with the most. Invest in yourself. Get the skills that are necessary. Learn what other people are doing. Don't just sit in a specialized area. I spoke at a conference, and it was all, I had a lot of social media managers, and they were frustrated because they couldn't justify their position. And the problem was they weren't going to go into management because all they knew was social media. They didn't know search. They didn't know analytics. They didn't know anything beyond social media. And so because of that, you're not going to get considered for a management position if you don't know how everything else works. Invest in yourself, in your education, because this is an industry that is continually changing. Number three, create your own. Many of you are saying, hey, I'm still in college, university. How do I get experience? Create something. Start now. Don't wait. Build your own website. Start your own business. Start developing income streams by creating content, by selling. Develop a community. Create your own right now. One of the best pieces of advice, I love this because it was a former student. She was interested in consumer packaging. And I told her, and this was years ago, I told her, start a blog, start a website analyzing consumer packaging. I said, with every article, get a picture of the package and analyze. Why is it good? Why is it bad? What are the brand elements? And she started doing that. 5 years later, she's sitting for an interview at a consumer brand packaging company. And they're looking at her resume. And they asked her, well, what else, do you have? And she told them, go to Google and search for consumer packaging analysis or something like that. Her website outranked the company that she was interviewing for. She was hired on the spot. She's now, I think, she's in the C-suite. I think she is a CMO of a consumer packaging company. Immediately, because she created something on her own, she demonstrated she knew and understood the industry better than the company that she was interviewing for. So create something now. Create your own. Why create your own? Because if a digital social platform gets bought by a billionaire and they change everything, you still have your own stuff. You're not dependent on them. It's your own, your fans, your followers, your community, your website, your content. When it's created on your own, you are not subject to the changes and whims of third-party social platforms. All right, number 4, sustainability is better than amazing growth. Why? Because amazing growth can happen very quickly and it can also leave very quickly. Focus on sustainability. It was interesting. So my talk with the AI expert, and he was saying, what makes AI work? I was laughing about it because it's the same thing that makes automation work. It's the same thing that makes using emerging technology work. It's the same thing that marketing. In order for AI to be effective in a company, it all requires business frameworks, defined processes, and rules. AI doesn't do it for you. You need to have these things to start. And so, in creating your own thing, or even working with an organization, sustainability. Will this business be here 5 years, 10 years from now? Because what will make it be there is frameworks, processes, and rules. Establishing things for growth and focusing on sustainability, making sure that these processes can be repeated if someone else is in the position. Go for sustainability, not crazy growth. Finally, number 5, everything is always about the user experience. Everything. This is why I focused on it earlier. From the initial sign up, from the landing page to the process, to the sale, to the follow up, to the overall experience of being a customer, it's always, always about the user experience. Many of you may do tech support for your parents or for your grandparents. That's user experience. Helping people navigate a form online, helping them navigate an app, helping them figure out what I'm supposed to do here because it's confusing. That's user experience. And when people have a bad user experience, they have a bad impression of a brand. When they have a great user experience, that's what keeps them there. So that is my talk, and I think we've got quite time for questions. Stuart, if you're willing to stay a few minutes past, we always do this. I'm willing to ask questions and stay a few minutes past as well.
Absolutely, if you're willing. Thank you,
Yes.
Matt. This is great. There's so many questions coming in, and a question from Aubrey who says that she's been using their company's been using paid social and search to get visibility, not getting the results they want, and they're finally realizing that content marketing and targeting users organically by helping them solve a problem or answering questions is the way to go. But how do you create a content strategy to accomplish that?
Wow. Did we do a webinar on this? I'm trying to think, because if not, that should be the next webinar.
Uh-huh.
Aubrey, I'll tell you what, where I start is keyword research. I go to keyword research tools and I go find what are people searching for in your industry? What questions do they have? What words do they use? And then I break down those keywords into where is that in the buying cycle? Are they searching for a solution? And what words? How does that work? What are the trends? What questions they have? Are they already in the solution, but trying to figure out how to make it work better, how to optimize, how to get more out of it? Or are they looking for ways to improve what they have? So I kind of build some columns as far as how the industry searches about it. And that gives you right there your content. And so keyword research is probably the number one place I start in a content marketing plan.
Okay. Rich asks, uh, planning to move to the UK next year or so. So do you have insights on whether the UK or other countries are better or worse in terms of jobs for digital marketers
Wow.
and freelancers?
I do not know. That I don't know. I do know from right now, a lot of countries are offering what they call a digital nomad visa. What that means is if you're a freelancer, content producer, and you're making a certain level of income, you can apply for a visa to that country. Portugal has it. The UAE has it. I'm trying to think. Some very attractive destinations have offered these visas to people that are considered a digital nomad that you can work from anywhere. And so I don't know what the UK is doing. I'm not really sure about the tech scene there. Um, it just really depends on what you're able to find and where you want to focus your attention. But if you can, I would look into do a search on some of these countries that offer the digital nomad visas. Uh, you may find somewhere warmer to go.
Okay. Um, Spoken like someone who lives in the northeastern part of the United States.
Yes, but I go to UAE every couple months, so
Excellent. Um, you had just talked about the user experience, and Leslie asks if UX design is going to lose relevancy in the future.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's going to become more and more important as we're going to this app based. A lot of companies are focused on apps in terms of development and of their audiences, of interactions. If anything, UX UI is going to be in bigger demand over the next few years. Like I said, anyone who does tech support for their parents or grandparents, helping them navigate that like health insurance or a health portal, it's confusing and it doesn't have to be. And that comes down to the usability and accessibility, and those are two areas companies may not realize it, but a good UX review can yield immediate results in revenue.
That that makes perfect sense because we've all had terrible frustrations when we use certain apps or websites
Yeah.
and think to ourselves, why did they do it this way?
Yeah.
So we have a couple of questions about platforms, and then I'm going to ask a couple of questions from people asking about their careers.
Sure.
One question, Manaf asks, say something about Facebook marketing, but you did, just to reiterate, um, Facebook marketing is one of the things that you would de-emphasize.
Well, you have if you're gonna, and here's the thing, I'm emphasizing Instagram, I'm de-emphasizing Facebook. Now that still depends on where your audience is. This is still, I'm just saying in general when I give these things, but if you are focusing on, for example, I know a company right now, they are focused on people 55 and older on Facebook who have grandchildren, and they show ads because that's who's on Facebook in the US are
Mhm.
older adults, typically with grandchildren, and they're making a killing because they're not competing with anybody else. They are focused on older people who have to buy gifts for grandchildren, and they're doing great. So, where's your audience? What's unique to them? What would make them be open to seeing your ads on that platform at that time? So even though I gave some very broad, generalized statements, it still has its application into your organization and what you're trying to do.
Okay. And you touched on it, but Richard asks also, has the organic activity of Instagram stopped working like it used to, since it seems that um, people are buying followers and likes and views, and it's because
Yeah,
Richard, I
it's
think,
organic reach is like I said on Instagram, especially organic reach is 2% or less. 2% is about the average. Um, you're not, and you can post all day. And that's one of the things about Instagram I find interesting is there's so many people using it. And once you post, the most traffic that you'll ever get on that post is within the first 24 hours. But yet, if I post that same video to YouTube and I grow my YouTube audience, um, traffic accumulates and it never stops. And so I'm always wondering why people use Instagram. It's really interesting, but all of the platforms limit your organic reach. So that's one of the things why I say building your own, but then I'm going to use that social platform to build my audience. I'm going to point them to a destination that's mine so that they become my first party one-on-one direct audience, not an audience that belongs to LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. They become my audience, and then I build my business.
there you go. Afan says, I'm currently studying development, working as in digital marketing, studying software development, I should say, working as a digital marketing professional with about a year and a half of experience in marketing, but also wants to be a graphic designer. Um, so can you talk about how those three fields might be connected? Are they?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what we talked about with user interface. You need to have a good grasp of design. I'll give you a great example that every time I go speak at a conference, they give me their slide decks. And those slide decks are always terrible, you know, because they were designed by a designer who's never given a presentation. They don't understand how an audience will see the slide. And the busier the slide is, the less effective it is. So understanding how design and so I would look at anything that has to do with neuromarketing, anything that has to do with effective design for a digital presentation, websites, apps, anything like that. Where in eye tracking studies, you can integrate programming, design, the more you understand interface, the better, and really, I think the more valuable your skills will be.
I hosted you for a webinar sometime back on storytelling, and you covered a lot of that material as well. So I advise people take a look through our YouTube channel for that. And some career questions. Bhavik asks if a person from a finance and accounting background can learn digital marketing.
Anyone can learn digital marketing, absolutely. It all starts with it, and it's business marketing. It just happens to be through these channels. Um, Great example. I'm still going to market. I'm still going to tell people that I'm here. I want to make myself findable. And so just learning some basic tactics of how to position your business, how to get it. Number one thing I tell people, get into Google My Business. Start there. Make sure your business listing in Google is correct, it's up to date, and you're constantly updating it, and you're putting information there. That's going to increase your visibility. And then you kind of go to the next stage, which is, what's my website look like? What am I asking people to do? Are people finding me? So it's a natural growth. Start with one area and then just start adapting other areas as you get into, well, I need to get more visitors. Okay, what's the best way to do that? What's the most economical way to do that? And that carries along with it a certain set of tactics in order to make that happen.
Obel asks, they're learning digital marketing for a month and are looking for real-time projects to do. Where can Obel find opportunities to do those types of things that will get hands-on experience?
Great question. I would start, like I said, this goes back to my advice of build your own. All right. Um, a lot of, and that's the thing. I know a lot of companies are approached by people that want to see their analytics or see or evaluate their site, and not a lot of companies are going to be open to that. Unfortunately, that's just people aren't really comfortable with that kind of approach unless you have a personal, unless you know somebody personally, and ask a favor. It won't work. So number one, if you can find someone that you know very well that you say, I want to help you, I want to do this, and see where it goes from there. Number two, build your own. Go to WordPress.org and start your website. Just now you can go for the hosted version, or if you have some money and it doesn't take a lot to get a hosted version of WordPress where you control everything and just start learning how it works.
Okay. We have people who have completed courses. Some Mohana completed a course from Simplilearn in digital marketing. Other people who are graduating or completing other courses. So they're asking about how to get their career started. Where can they look to find jobs as a fresher if they don't have um, work experience to complete?
Mm. Well, that's why I tell people start your own. Start your own website. Start becoming a content producer in something that you enjoy. When I had my agency, when I hired someone new, the first thing they had to do was build a website. Usually they'd use WordPress. Uh, After they got that done, and it had to be done within 2 weeks, uh, then my next instruction was to go make money with this website. And part of that was going to, how do you make money online? There are thousands of ways to make money online. Go figure out what they are. Go make a list of them and then see what works for what you want to do. Start building something on your own. Don't wait for a job. Don't wait for it. Start, build it. And the thing is, I have people that because of that, their websites right now are a second income. And because of that, it's enabled them to buy the car that they wanted. It's enabled them to to get, a larger house. It's enabled that because they're still making money off of something that they built 15 years ago. And it just keeps getting better and better. And it's absolutely amazing. When you build your own, it's always with you. So just start there.
Um, we have a couple of questions from people who are interested in digital marketing as a business, starting their own agency or consultancy.
Mhm.
What kind of advice can you give to them, and what kinds of services are valuable to offer in the marketplace?
Great question. I'm going to back up a little from that question. I'm going to say if you are just getting into the industry, you've got a choice. Do I go agency or do I go brand? All right. And there's a couple of pros and cons to both. All right. So if you're just getting into it, if you go brand side, chances are you're going to be responsible for one thing. All right. And it may be like paid search on Google. And that's what you're responsible for. Or you're responsible for dealing with the agency that does it and working with them. So a brand, you're going to get brand experience, which is great, being in that atmosphere, seeing how things maybe work together. You're going to see how silos work, and good or bad, you're going to get the brand experience. But it's going to be very limited as to what you're able to do, depending upon the size. If you go to the agency world, and this is what I loved about the agency world, you have 100 clients, everything from B2B to brand to small, medium-sized businesses, lead generation, e-commerce. So you're going to get a lot of business experience in different business models. Now you may only do one thing, but you're going to learn how it applies in so many different areas. And it's easier to cross train in an agency because, as people come and go and you can pick up different things. So both brand and agency offer some attractive things. Saying you worked for a brand always gets people's attention when you're in the job interview. However, when you've worked for the agency, you've actually gotten more experience across a wider variety of businesses. So that's the thing. And so those of you that want to start your own agency, I would challenge you to go work for an agency for at least a year, maybe 2 years before you start your own. Why? Learn how they do it. Learn not just how they work with clients, but learn how the agency works. Learn how to mark up your services, how to price things, how to make proposals, how to work with clients. Learn the structure of how an agency works for a year or two before you start your own. Okay? It will be invaluable. You may hate it, you may love it, but get an understanding of how it works before you start your own thing.
Okay. We have a couple of related questions from Adarsh and Elena who ask, Adarsh's question is, can you continue to work in technical aspects instead of learning towards the manager's role? Do you have that kind of hierarchy in digital marketing? And related to that, Elena asks, where does digital marketing end and where does programming and web development and coding start? Where do you draw the line
Great,
between digital
great
marketing versus
questions.
technical?
Great questions. People ask me if knowing HTML is critical to SEO. And I tell them no, but it will help advance your career. It will help when you can identify the problems. Okay. So if you're an SEO, but you don't know the technical side, you're limited. You can't troubleshoot if there's something wrong. Now, it also depends on the organization that you're in. If I'm in a large company and I'm a digital marketer, I never touch the programming. I never touch the technical. I can be, and that's because in a large company, you'll find content writers, you'll find marketers and people that are in charge of campaigns, but they never touch the technical because that is IT or that's whoever manages the website. The technical side is typically very removed. And I've worked with a lot of SEOs in large brands. They never deal with technical. It's some reason been very divorced. Smaller companies, like a mid-sized company where if you're in marketing, you do everything. So there, it's going to be very valuable to have that technical skill along with the marketing skill. Um, in an agency, that can really help build your value within the agency when you can bring those two together. But typically, in a large company and a large brand, they're going to separate those things. So it just depends on, and this is all generalities, just depends on where your career path takes you, of whether that will be a valuable skill set or it may be separated and you have nothing to do with it. I know a lot of SEOs who worked for large brands who were so very frustrated because they knew the problems, because they knew the programming, but it was completely out of their hands. It was in someone else's hands. And we can't take that code. That's legacy code. And it was so frustrating to those that could solve the problem. They knew what the problem was, but they were not allowed to touch it. So I hope that helps.
I hate that.
Yes.
We have a couple of questions from content writers. One is Shika and one is AJ. And so Shika's question and AJ's is related is, where could completing a digital marketing certification take their careers develop in content marketing? Where are the best
So
paths to grow their careers?
wow. I'll tell you right now, if you can write well, uh, there is so much demand right now for content producers, content writers. The OMCP that I cited a couple of times, in their research, they found that people with that certification earn between 16 and 25% more than non-certified marketers. Um, that says a lot because it It demonstrates that you've got the knowledge. Now, there are some technical aspects to that certification, but a lot of them have to do with understanding that larger picture of marketing. And that's what the certification does, is if you can write content, but you understand the larger picture, how will this content achieve organizational objectives? That's where certification helps you see more of that bigger picture. And so when you go into an interview, you're not just focusing on, oh, they want me to do this little bit of content or this little bit of responsibility. You can speak to the organization. You can speak to a wider picture, which shows your vision. It shows your capabilities of being more valuable to the organization than just a role player.
I've got a few more questions. One is from Shifa, who is a digital marketing intern who would like to know more about the importance of backlinks in blogs.
Yeah. Backlinks. Now, Google said they're devaluing backlinks, which I was like, okay, it's still important. But I'll tell you what, and I'm gonna cut through since we're like on time. We could do a whole presentation on backlinks. I love PR. Optimizing press releases is probably one of the best ways right now to get backlinks because it's getting picked up by media, it's getting picked up by blogs, it's getting picked up, and people are linking back to you. I love online PR as a way of building backlinks. Number two, studies, research. I just did an audit for a company, and 70% of their backlinks came from one research document that they published. And it was all done within a year. Within the past year, they published research. 70% of their backlinks came from that research document. That produces. And then number two, podcasting. Since I've been podcasting, the amount of backlinks I get is just insane, especially when I'm a guest on other shows or anything like that. Podcasting has created an incredible network of links. So those are three areas where I have seen backlinks just go crazy and really benefit the activities in there.
Excellent. If you have a couple more minutes, do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Need to ask about the creator-owned platforms. Do they work well with Web3? Looking to the
Well, those are Web3 properties. They're Web3 definitions, which is an interactive method to build a community. And part of that is the monetization of that community, either um, direct through digital currency or indirect through payment methods. So those communities they fit the definition of Web3, absolutely, because that's a creator-driven platform that enables payment, and so payment and community building. So absolutely, they are.
drawing on your experience from uh, starting 25 years ago. So Nabota asks, he's from Cameroon, where digital marketing is not really well known. Um, how does he become a pioneer in bringing that market?
So working in some developing countries, for example, I work in a couple countries where Instagram is the internet. When I talk about anything, Instagram is the first thing that people think of. And mainly because when the internet was introduced to that country on a mass scale, mobile phones and Instagram were the big news. So people didn't have it prior to that. Very few had it when it was a PC on a desk. So the internet to them meant that it was always on the phone and it was an app. And so they think Instagram first. My question to them is, what do you do when you have a question? Where do you go? Google. Everybody goes to Google when they have a question. And so what I'm trying to teach them in these emerging economies and countries is, yes, you may use Instagram, 4 hours a day, but everybody goes to Google when they have a question. What if your business was in the Google results in the top 3? Now they're starting to think. That's the thing and this gets back to my skill asking questions. You can't tell people what they need to do. If you ask them questions and enable them to come to the conclusion, that's what's going to sell your service.
Yep.
So there are ways, if you go to, I think it is myactivity.google.com, ask someone to do that and it will show how many Google searches they make in a day. And ask them to add up how many Google searches did you do last week? And you can see that on myactivity.google.com when you have an account. And so if I'm talking to a business owner who themselves has done over 100 searches in a week, I'm like, well, why wouldn't you want your business to be found there? Don't you think everybody else is doing that kind of search? And then you can do the keyword research to see what people are searching for in that area, in that country. Look for where the demand is. And then that's how you can ask really good questions to help people come to the conclusion themselves.
All right, I'm down to the last two questions we have time for. One is VJ says that they really love the analysis you've done. How can they track the same kinds of trends and topics on their own?
Boy, like I said, keyword research, a lot of your keyword research tools will show you trends throughout the past 12 months. I also use trends. I'm going to put it into the chat here, trends.google.com. Um, Now, trends.google.com, you can select your country. You can select, and usually what I will do is I will look at the past 5 years. So I will put a keyword in and I will look to see, and Google Trends will show you the demand of that keyword or of the topic over the past year. And then I expand that to 5 years. And from there, I can see if there is an annual trend. Why is it there? What surrounds that? What are people looking for? And then that helps me figure out what kind of trends there are.
Excellent. And then the last question I have time for is um, Sonia asks if you could compare, the prospects for data scientist versus digital marketer. Do you think that those two things are comparable in any way or related in some way?
So a data scientist. So when I talked about analytics, there's different levels of analytics. There's the website analytics, and that's getting into what's working, why it's working, answering, what channels are most effective, and do my processes work? Am I getting people through? So that's answering questions about that. Data science is much bigger, and that goes into a more organizational of looking for what are the patterns that we're seeing. What you're doing is essentially more accounting of trying to find what are the relationships, how do we maximize profitability, what are key factors, and so you're going to be doing more work with AI in finding those factors, but it always comes down to a human then to figure out, well, what's that causality? What is it that caused that to happen? And if we fix this, how would we modify it? What would we do? So that's where data science, it's that next level beyond analytics of really, it's more like a digital accountant of data. And that's just going to increase because the more AI takes over, the more we're going to need humans to tell us what's going on with the AI.
Yeah,
So absolutely.
that makes sense. Okay, I apologize to everyone whose questions we couldn't take. Matt's been more than generous with this time, so I'm going to put back up his links and also drop the
Yeah, you can
chat.
reach me on, you know what, if you have questions, go to LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn, connect with me, and put your question in your message. And you know what? If I don't answer it, then I'll put it in a podcast. So
Okay.
absolutely.
And I'm dropping into the chat window right now your Matt's LinkedIn URL, so you can get that right there. Oops, sorry, running the wrong way. But let's close off with a question or two and a little bit about one of our certification programs. And this question, I'll leave it open for about 30 seconds. What are the skills in digital marketing that you want to add to your personal toolkit? And you can mark off as many as apply to you. And when would you like to start acquiring those skills? show the poll result here. It's a pretty even distribution across the different skill sets, analytics and SEO.
SEO, content, and analytics. That's where I
Yeah.
started, and I love that.
Okay. And most of the audience wants to start right away. So let me share with you really quickly, last few seconds here. Professional Certificate Program in Digital Marketing is one of the programs that we offered. This one is in collaboration with Purdue University. It's a 6-month program. It's all online. It can be accessed from anywhere in the world. This edition is meant for learners outside of the United States. We also have an edition that is boot camp for learners within the United States. But in both cases, you're covering a comprehensive curriculum, a number of hands-on projects. The university affiliated program lets you access their alumni association, get master classes from their instructors. This one also has master classes from Meta and your additional certifications from Meta Blueprint. You get hands-on experience with a wide range of tools and platforms as part of the coursework. And so just a quick question, whether this is something you might be interested in doing. I'll leave that open for a few seconds here. And close the poll in about 10 seconds, so do get your answers in. And about 90% of the audience is interested somewhat or very in this program. So we will share with you information about how to get involved with that, but I do want to let you know that you can contact us about our programs at ask us at simplylearn.net, and I'll also give you the URL here for this program page, which you can also get by the QR code. This is the program page. You can reach there, and then also putting the email address into the chat as well. So take a look in the chat box. You can see those things. And with that, I want to, I did want to show the poll results. I don't know if I did. Then with that, I want to thank Matt one more time. Thank you so much for being here and taking so much time to answer our audience's questions today, Matt. Really appreciate that.
Oh, of course. I love this career stuff, and I love especially working with students here to figure out how this crazy industry works. So, absolutely.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody in the audience for being here today. We hope that you found this helpful to you, and we'd love to see you at future Simply Learn webinars, and we'd also love to welcome you into our learning community. Connect with us on Facebook and Twitter at Simply Learn. But most importantly, connect with us on LinkedIn, Simply Learn, how you find us, and well, we hope to see you again soon. So that concludes our webinar for today. Thanks so much.